Hey guys, I'm Nicky Romero. Welcome back to the second part of Novell. With the masterclasses we do, we'd like to help you guys out and give a little insight how we did the songs and how the mixing and the sound design process works. First of all, I want to thank everybody for all the positive feedback and the comments that we got in the last videos. I just like to help you guys as much as possible. If there's something in particular you want me to talk about, let us know in the comments. Right now, we're going to be looking at the kick and bass and about a little bit of the mixing of Novell. Yeah, let's get it going. So for those who don't know the song just yet, no, just joking. Okay, the kick and the bass. Let me see. So we have three different layers for the bass of Novell, and if you wonder why that is, because most of the times a lot of bass sounds don't cover the whole frequency that you want them to cover. So I just use different layers for different parts of the mix. First of all, the mid bass is just giving a little bit of the crunch of that crunchy sound that makes it feel a little bit more aggressive. Otherwise it would sound a little bit too sweet. If I would cut it out of the mix, it would sound like this. It's just giving the song a little bit more drive, and it also makes it sound a little bit more aggressive, which I wanted to achieve in this part of the song. Then there's a top bass that literally is playing the same thing but then an octave higher, or actually it's playing the same octave. And I think I've done that, I'm not quite sure, but I think I've done that just to cover a little bit or put an accent on certain frequencies. If I look at the, yeah, so you can see that it's just covering a frequency of in between 130 and 450 hertz, which means that's just a little bit of the mid-low frequency of the bass. So it's just giving a little edge to the sound. And sometimes if you would pick a sound like this that is distorted that much, it's really hard to give that. It's really hard to give it like a warm treatment EQ wise without distorting too much. I'm not sure if I say that right, but so most of the times I would just use different sounds for different purposes. Then we have the low bass here. That is just a sine wave playing the same thing as low as possible. So the plugins I've used is, well, for a sine wave it doesn't really matter. You can use a massive Nexus silent, you can even use the EXS, whatever you think that sounds best, but in my case I just used, to make it easy, I used the Nexus Sine. Then I've used the Pro Q2, which I love, from FabFilter, but just to be used for a low cut. It's not doing that much. Low cut on 18 Hertz, I'm not sure why I've done that. I think I've used an automation for that. Of course I used the plugin for the sidechain, Nicky Romero Kickstart. Not as aggressive as it could, but I just used it halfway, so it uses a little bit of the effect. I used an LFO tool because what I love about the LFO tool, that you can literally shape the end part of your sidechain here, so you can make it duck before the kick actually comes in. So usually a sidechain would work like when you have a kick and a bass, it would just kick in every time the bass kick of the kick kicks in, but this one is actually ducking before the kick kicks in, and then you're gonna have a little bit more control about the whole situation. So especially for the lowest part of your bass, you would want to use that. Yeah, what was hard about this song is that it's quite high in the frequency spectrum because it's playing really high notes. And for example, the D sharp here, then this one, that's quite high, because most of the times in club songs you would like to use the bass frequencies in between. Let's say in A, G, F, that sounds best mix wise, but with melodic songs you can never escape the fact that you're going to have to use high frequencies or high bass notes sometimes to achieve the complete chord progression that you want to use. So sometimes it's really hard to get the high basses sound right, and to get the high basses sound full, because that's really hard. So same with Novell. I couldn't get it sound really, really low, but you know, altogether, I think it sounded good enough. So then the kick. The kick itself is a kick I've made in my own plugin. It's called a kick, and I literally tuned it in the right key. And I have to say, this kick is not even in the exact right key, and you can figure that out by using the sound shifter pitch, and you can just transpose it to 12 semitones up. So, and then you can hear the actual key of the kick, and it's actually not the exact right key, but it just melted together well. So I just left it that way. But so as you can hear, it's not the exact right key. So it could actually do it a little bit better if I spend some more time, but sometimes you just don't have the time to figure out all the small details. So if it sounds good, and I leave it that way. But if you have a little bit more time, I would definitely recommend looking to the key of your kick, especially if your kick is a little bit longer like this one, then the key definitely matters for your mix down in the end. If you have the right key, that means one of the 3 notes in the chord that you're using as your first chord, then it's going to be much easier to mix the song, especially with melodic songs. And yeah, so if the kick works well in the mix and you just want to leave it that way, and if it sounds good, then I would just leave it that way. I mean, in the end of the day, it's also about that the song sounds good in the clubs, and that's what matters in the end. So you can you know, freak out until you have the right thing, but sometimes, you know, I've just saved the time to do all that, and if it sounds good, I just leave it. So yeah, it's not a special kick drum. It's just made with my own plugin called the Kick, and you can just mess around a little bit with it till you get the result that you like. Nothing special going on. I have a glue compressor just to compress the kick drum a little bit, but not too much. I would never use the trestle too much, because it's gonna really suck away the details of your kick. Most important thing is it's gonna have a nice transient, so it punches through the mix. I added a little bit of low frequencies. I'm not a big fan of adding frequencies with an equalizer. Most of the times I would just recommend to use an equalizer to just cut away frequencies. And if you want to really add frequencies, I would use, if you have the opportunity to use it, I would use an UAD equalizer, or even a hardware equalizer, because that is not really messing your sound up as much as the really easy plugins in Logic do. But if you don't have it, I would just use it as less as possible to add frequencies. Yeah, so how does that work together? Well, it really is just a sidechain of Logic. It's just a compressor working together with a few extra plugins like the Kickstart and LFO2, especially on the lowest part of the bass and the lowest sine wave, because that is really hard to control. You really want to make sure that the bass does not play at the same time as the kick drum, especially with the lowest part of the bass. So that is really important, and that's why I use those 2 extra sidechain plugins. For the synths, most of the times you just have to listen carefully and decide what you think that sounds best. In my opinion, the compressor of Logic, sidechain wise, just sounds the best, and it sounds the most natural. It definitely is not the easiest solution. So if you want to go for an easy solution, use Kickstart or use LFO2, whatever works for you, and it's going to get you to a quick result much faster. Other different parts of the song, let me see. Because that is really something that I would like to tell you guys, is the use of the effects. The use of effects can really add something special to your mix, and it can add some impact to the song, but it's really hard to use them right without interfering with the other parts of the mix, or interfering with the bass. So how do you do that right? I've used a few here. Well, something like this. And this one I pre-processed already, so it has no plugins here. But what I've done basically is put a little bit of a sidechain on your effect, and low cut it to the frequencies that you really need to hear. An impact of the song or like an impact effects like this do really not need a lot of low frequencies unless it's when it's going into the break. So on this part of the song, which is like the part to the second part of the drop, you don't want to use a lot of low frequencies because it's going to interfere with the bass that's playing at the same moment. So a little bit of sidechain, and I would EQ it to at least a low cut of like 100 and, let's say 80 or maybe 200 hertz. Lower than that you really do not need on that part, unless it's something that you want to do on purpose, of course. But so that was. So this thing here is called the cutting arp. ARP stands for arpeggiator, of course, and this is something that I learned from the songs of Axwell. He always has something playing in the mix during the drop that's going up and down, just to make it more interesting. And so same goes for this. I always try to find a certain sound that keeps moving through the mix to make the mix interesting as the drop is playing. So I picked something like this. So how do you achieve such thing? Well, you can literally pick any sound from any synth and play a little bit around with a bit crusher, a mod delay, to make it sound a little different than other things. And you can use the pitch envelope to just go up and down. And I would really recommend the Isotope Trash. It's a plugin I just found out that really sounds great and that really adds something to the sound that the original sample does not have. So I call this running FX, but so another part of the song is the vocal I wanted to talk about. So a lot of people know Novell also for The Moment, because that's the version with the vocal on it. But before you get to a result like The Moment, a big process is, is before you achieve such a vocal. I mean, I can show you guys a few versions how it sounds like before we found that hook, and it's gonna sound like this.
I'm out there in a battlefield, just trying to make it back to you. I'm holding onto something real, a picture that I keep of you. And tell me the ways you think of me when I'm away. Oh, I'll tell you the memories of us that keep me safe. I'm not afraid to say I need your love.
So that is a hook, and it can be something like
something we all got the love, and we all got the light. So I'm reaching out tonight, love, for somebody to love.
so.
Tell me the ways you think of me when I'm.
As you can hear, there's many different versions before you get to an end result vocal-wise. It barely happens that you have a vocal that fits directly into the complete song. So you always have to coach a little bit to the left and right just to make it sound tight and make it sound the way you want it to. So I want to thank Nicky Romero for being a part of the song, because he did an amazing job, in my opinion, to The Moment. So then there's a little bit of the vocal mixing. I don't have the project right here because I've done it on a different system. But what is important about the mix of this song and the mix in general is I bounced this whole project out and I let it go through an analog compressor, which is the Roger Food. It's in a different room now, but that really gives the a little bit of the missing edge that the digital stuff can do somehow, and really gave a little bit of the warmth of the song. But what I do have on digital processing is I use a lot the Oxford limiter here, and it's on you, but you can actually switch off the auto gain, and you can switch off safe mode, where you can literally go as loud as you want to. You can even go beyond Logic's 0 dB limit here. it does not necessarily mean that it's going to sound good. So you have to make sure that you use it right. So therefore, I always use the auto gain and I always use the save mode, because I just literally don't want to cross Logic's 0 dB limit. In my opinion, it never sounds really good, but some people do, and some people can get it work right. The inflator does a great job on make it sound a little bit fatter. I don't really know what it's doing, but it's literally inflating your mix, I guess. But I always use it a little bit, max to like 3 dB, 4 dB of effect. Well, like a stereo imager, not doing so much. A multiband, well, like a small multiband. Most of the times if I use a multiband on the mix, I do it on low frequencies just to make them more squeeze them in together and to make them work together. But in this song, I use it on the top end because I had a big problem getting the highs mixed right in this song somehow. So I used a multiband limiter compressor for this part. This is just waves though. This is just limit. What is the name? Linear phase multiband. I don't even know. You can use any multiband. The Elysia, well, this is just another EQ that you can use. It doesn't really matter what EQ you use. It's just a matter of taste. I think this one sounds good and it has a lot of options, but I'm a big fan of the Pultec as well. Then there is the Brainworks, and the Brainworks is doing a great job on making your mix sound stereo or mono. It really is what it needs, but sometimes I use it to stereo widen some parts, and sometimes I use the mono function to make everything mono under 200 hertz of the song. So it's not doing so much on this part of the song, but I always like to have all the frequencies below 200. I'd like to have them mono. Well, then there's a small thing here, a low cut on the song on 36 hertz. And because most of the times everything below 36 is not going to be heard anywhere unless you have a really good sound system. But no, it makes sure that you have a little bit more air in the mix to mix different frequencies. So that's it for this. That's it for this tutorial. I hope you guys liked it. Yeah, once again, if there's something that you want me to talk about in special or in particular, let us know in the comments. Hope you guys liked it. And we'll be doing another one quite soon with another song. So hope you subscribe and see you next time. Ciao.